Good morning, everybody. Yesterday I didn't do a video, so you don't have to try to look for it. This is number 3 out of part 1. We're talking about soul ties and relationships and what comes along with relationships, like the bond in between people or between other things that you can have a relationship with, like companies, ministries. It could be teacher, students, so just different relationships. But we're still in the introduction part of what I'm going into because we're going to get deeper as we go. But I'm making these videos short, trying to make them between around 15 minutes so that it's not too long and it's something that you can easily just watch real quick during the day sometime. But this is session 3 of part 1. And I want to start out by talking about unhealthy and ungodly soul ties. There is a root under there that usually creates these. And a lot of times people have been asked, can God make a rock so large that he cannot pick up? Now, we're kind of thinking, what kind of question is that? That's kind of a stupid question because God is almighty, he's all powerful, he can do anything. Well, actually, if you think about it, there is a rock that he created that he cannot pick up, and that's called our free will. He gave all of the humans on this earth, people on this earth, free will, and he cannot take it away from them because he gave it to us. So that is the rock that he made so large that he cannot lift up. He gave us free will and he's allowing us to make our decision as to whom we want to follow, who we want to believe, who we want to worship. And he is sitting back patiently, though, hoping that we're going to follow him, that we're going to align ourselves up with him and choose him as our creator, because he is really our creator. But some people don't believe that. They may have other gods, but he gave them that choice, that they can make that choice. So that is the rock that he cannot pick up. And that's something that we need to remember when bad things happen. Sometimes it could be from our choices that we've done. It could be natural consequences. It's not like he did it to punish us, but he gave us free will, and a lot of times, and most of the times, there's consequences with whatever we do, and those are just natural consequences that have been placed in this earth in this order. So we need to really think about that. um, I know, like little babies, they don't really know anything, so he has grace and mercy over them. So if they were to die in a young age where they're not accountable, they would automatically go up to heaven with him. But once you become at the age of accountability, that's when you really need to know who God is and know right from wrong and really make him Lord. And so you need to start teaching your kids that, because if they're at the age of accountability, they're going to be held accountable. If they're not going to be passed through the gates because you're a Christian or you're a believer of God. So really remember this for your kids, because I know a lot of kids are not going to church right now and they're not being fed the Bible or the Word. So please take this into consideration today as you go throughout your day. I didn't mean to get off the subject, but I just wanted to talk about that. And um, given the fact that we are presented with free will, the most powerful force in God's creation, its true power lies in God's refusal to either control it or override it. The angels have free will as well. And man, God's highest creation on this planet, has it. Even the Godhead possesses it, as Jesus indicated in John 4:34. My food is to do the will of him who sent me. Now, that was just part of the verse. You can go and read the whole verse. But basically, he was talking about that's what feeds him, is to do the will of the Creator, which is his Father, which is God. And then again in Luke 22, verse 42, says, nevertheless, my will, but thine be done. So he's talking again, not his will. He's lining himself up with God. He wants his will to be the same as God's will. So he is already aligning himself up. And that's what God is waiting for us to do. He wants us to align ourselves up willingly to him. He doesn't want to force us to line up with him. He's given us the opportunity to do what we want to do. And he's hoping that we're going to do the right thing and follow the one that created us and loves us and watches over us. And so it is up to us that we choose that pattern. And in certain circumstances, when one submits his will to another, incredible good or demonic evil can occur. And we're kind of talking about like those consequences again. Okay, so I will attempt to define both sides of this issue, not only the benefits of godly soul ties, but also the destructiveness of the ungodly soul ties. Because you remember, there's bad and good, and so we're going to talk about the godly and ungodly. And if we put that into relationship terms, we can say the bond between the good bond between relationships or the bad bond between relationships, because we always bring something out of every relationship we've ever had with anybody. We can bring something good from that relationship, or we can bring something bad. And I'll further attempt to offer solutions to those people experiencing pain and dynamic torment due to the existence of unhealthy adult soul links. So the remedy for deliverance from evil spirits is relatively simple. By comparison with the breaking of evil soul ties, one can readily cast out a demon. But how does one cast out a person exerting influence in his life? And a person who is usually a mixture of good and evil. And I know everybody has met some people that have a good side and a bad side, and then we've met people that seem like they always are doing good, and then we've met those that seem pure evil. So we're talking, about everybody, that kind of mixture there. Okay, it is not an accident that Jesus commanded us to forgive before we were to be delivered, as in the Lord's Prayer. If you remember, if you go through the Lord's Prayer, it talks about, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those. And then later on, it talks about, and deliver us from evil. Okay, so we got to forgive first before we can be delivered from whatever it is that's binding us. Forgiveness is definitely, I could go on another series on forgiveness. It is such a vital thing that we do. We have to forgive others. We have to forgive even those that have hurt us so bad, because in the Bible, it also talks about God will not hear our prayers if we're holding on to unforgiveness. And it also talks about God forgives us the same measure that we forgive others. So if we're not forgiving someone, I think that means that God's not going to forgive us, because if it says He gives us the same measure of forgiveness that we give others, that's pretty that's pretty strong there. So we really need to check our hearts daily and see if there's anybody that we're holding in unforgiveness towards. And I know it's not easy to just say, I forgive you and it's gone. Sometimes you have to keep working on it and working on it. And God honors that. You have to keep asking the Holy Spirit, please, please help me to forgive this person. Help me to forgive this person. And another way, like I said, I could go on another video session on forgiveness because it's so much there. But another thing that you can do is every time you think about that person, just say, I forgive that person. Lord, help me to forgive that person. Bless that person. Just bless them. I know a friend of mine has told me that one thing that she does is whenever a car drives by that's like the same car of a person that she's holding aught against, every time she sees that type of car, she says, bless her, Lord. And then and forgive me for having those feelings. And I think that was awesome, because that there she continues and she continues, and what you repeat will become. So, and she, it's just awesome that she came up with that. I think God told her to do that or something, but I thought that was a wonderful idea, because anytime you think of a situation that brings anger or makes you upset, that shows you that there's some unforgiveness there. You need to immediately start forgiving for that. Okay, back to what we're talking about. Sorry about that tangent there, but let's see. Oh yeah, Matthew 6:12 and 13 is where you can find the Lord's Prayer if you don't already know it. And right here, I'm just going to go over it again. It says, "And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." In different versions of the Bible has different words. I think I had said transgressions, because that's what I had learned a long time ago. That word. Okay, and just as no two snowflakes are alike, there are no two relationships that are identical. Every relationship will be different. But there are some common characteristics between the relationships. Some are beneficial and some are unhealthy soul ties. So, hopefully, by gaining knowledge on the differences between the good and the bad aspects of relationships, you will have a greater spiritual freedom and maturity. And that's what I'm thriving for, is to teach everybody, how to have a better relationship. All of us, even pastors, sometimes, I grew up thinking how wonderful the pastor's life must be, because he couldn't do anything wrong. He was always happy. His family always looked happy. I never heard any bad things going on. This is a fantasy that a lot of us grow up and we feel like, whoever is leading the church has just got a wonderful life. And even sometimes we think that these pastors or ministers on TV have got it made. Their life is just so wonderful. But you know what? The enemy comes and they strike leaders that are trying to get others the true information of the kingdom. They strike hard. The enemy strikes hard. And these preachers or ministers on TV or even in your church, they go through stuff. And that's why it's so important for the body of Christ to keep prayers and don't tear them down. You may think this preacher is just out for the money or whatever, and this preacher, he's da 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 da, and this one's a fake preacher or whatever. There probably are some fake preachers out there, but we don't know exactly what mission God has given each of these preachers, especially like the ministries on TV. He may have given one preacher just the mission of teaching on prosperity. He might have given this other one to teach just on salvation, or and then another one on deliverance, and another one on healing, because there's so many parts of the kingdom that if you're called to do one thing, that's the thing that you need to focus on. And a lot of people don't understand that. They think that that's all that he wants to talk about, but that's the mission that God has given him. And God's going to bring people that need to hear that to that person. And whenever that person needs another direction, God can move them to another place. But we need to stop tearing down these leaders that are trying to do God's work. And I know that's off the tangent again. Sorry, my alarm just went off. I forgot to turn this onto mute. But, anyways, keep your leaders and the ministers and the pastors in prayer. Even our president. I know some may really like the president. Some may really not like the president. Whoever the president is, it doesn't matter who the president is, or who our Congress is, or who our senators or governors. They're leaders. We need to be praying for these leaders. We need to be blessing them. We need to be praying that God would move in their lives and that God's will be done in their lives, because God can be in control of maneuvering things and changing people's hearts by placing things around them. He's not going to go in and do heart surgery and change it without that person asking, but he can move it like a chessboard. He can move pawns around. He can move the rook. I'm trying to remember all the things I used to play a long time ago, and the queen and the king. He can move things around people to try to get them to change their heart or to do certain things, and he can use even the worst of the worst people to bless a nation. If we remember the story of Esther, Esther was married to a Persian king. He wasn't a believer, but yet she prayed and prayed, and God moved through her to her husband and changed his heart. And this unbeliever changed the whole history of the Jewish nation, because they were going to be slaughtered. And there's just so many times that God has used unbelievers, that he doesn't have to use just the believers to get something done. He can use anybody he wants. He even used a donkey to talk to the prophet that was going to try to curse Israel. Now, this donkey turned around and asked him, "Why are you beating me?" Because he was beating him because he had stopped. The donkey had stopped because he saw an angel with a fiery sword, just trying to stop him. So, if God can use that donkey, he can use anybody. So just pray for our leaders, because anything can happen. Anything is possible through Christ. Okay, just remember, we don't have to be stuck with whatever's going on here in America. Prayer is so, so important. Just start praying and let God start moving the pawns on the chessboard and trying to get things back in order. But it takes us to be praying for God's will to be done here on earth, as his kingdom is coming and the kingdom is here whenever we're doing this. So I just want to bless you and just keep this chewing on this for the rest of the day. Kind of think about what I said. If you have any questions, you can you can email me at healingjourneyministry@gmail.com, or you can catch me on Facebook and put a comment in there if you want questions, or even on YouTube. You can even post a comment on there. But if you want to subscribe, push the subscribe button, and you can make sure to get updates on these. I try to do them daily, but right now I am in a healing process from a surgery, so it may not be I may not be able or have the time to come out to do one like I missed yesterday, but I'm going to try to make sure that I get as many of these as I can. So, everyone, have a blessed day. Enjoy the nature that God has given us. It is so beautiful out here. Oops, I just got to show you. Look at all that glorious land. It is just so pretty out here. God made all of this, and it's so peaceful. Okay, God bless. Thank you. Bye bye.